Hi, we're back in Class 3, Segment 4. This is about emotional projects and where to look to see progress after your child's emotional release times. First of all, you need to know that if your child suffered some difficulty early in his or her life, prenatally, during birth, shortly after, during the first couple of years of life, something, either one big hard thing happened or there was a succession of small grinding difficulties that could have installed fear, then the hurt that your child is working on when you propose to separate may have pretty deep roots. This is not bad. The hurt can be healed, but you need to know that it won't be 2 or 3 cries and your child will be all very happy to see you go. There are good reasons why your child is scared. Those reasons are in the past. They are over now. You are paying attention. You are providing a new kind of safety. So the conditions for healing are now improving day by day, especially if you're getting listening time for yourself. That really makes things go well. So as the conditions for healing improve, your child is going to become more sensitive to your leaving and is going to have more feelings, not less. And your child is going to find lots and lots of little tiny pretexts, little tiny times when you walk 2 steps away and they burst into tears, to work on their feelings about separation that go back to these early difficult times. What they've shown, actually, science has shown that children, if their mothers are frightened or in a difficult spot while they're in gestation, while the mother is pregnant, the fear signals go through the placental barrier into your child. One of the ways we know that infants are this sensitive to how their mothers feel and the mother's sense of tension is a study that was done after the 9/11 disaster. Mothers who were pregnant during that disaster were studied, and mothers who were in Manhattan at the time, who were pregnant with their children, then had their children, and the children were studied to see, are these children any different from children of mothers in other parts of New York City who were not so close to the disaster? And what they found was that mothers who were very close to the disaster and pregnant at the time had children who were statistically far more likely to be showing signs of post-traumatic stress syndrome than the babies who were far away from the disaster, whose mothers were not so closely involved. And we've noticed this as well, that babies of mothers who report being really, really scared while they were pregnant, for one reason or another, had babies who were tight and often upset, easily upset, not sleeping well, and who had a hard time with separation. So it's not your fault that your child had something happen to them. You are not omnipotent. You are not God. You don't get to prevent every hard thing from happening to your child. If your child came scared and afraid of separation, you have the wherewithal to heal this. And as you heal this, you yourself will also heal. You yourself will become more and more confident that your child has the inner resources to get over any obstacle as you apply listening tools. And as you are listened to yourself, you're going to find that you have resources to get over big emotional obstacles as well. It's like this process is going to be as good for you as it is for your child. But children progress a lot faster than adults do. They've had things wearing on them for a lot less time than we've had things wearing on us. So the brightness comes more quickly. But if your child's separation anxiety doesn't lift after 2 weeks or 3 weeks of using listening tools, stay listening, play listening, special time, then you've got what we call an emotional project. And it just means that the root of the fear goes in deeper. It's going to take more time for the fears to release. And you are going to be called upon more times every day than you wish to listen to your child or to play with your child. Your child's going to want to play with laughter. Your child is going to want to cry when, a little button drops off of her shirt. And all of a sudden, there's a separation, an excuse to work on separation. The button fell, and she feels helpless again. It's not a separation from you, it's a separation from her button, but It doesn't take much to kick up these feelings of helplessness, these feelings of hopelessness, these feelings that things are never going to go well. And our children can't, this is their attempt to heal just as fast as they can. So an emotional project means that your child is going to be picking up on lots of little tiny pretexts to work on great big feelings. Your child is going to have, unusual amounts of trouble with tiny little things like you going to the bathroom, or over at grandma's house, you going outside to have a cup of iced tea in the backyard, and all of a sudden she notices you're gone. So your child is going to be extra sensitive for a while she's rebuilding her emotional resilience by offloading feelings and lightening her emotional backpack. What this means for you is that you kind of need to strategize how to be able to play the role of healer, of the person who can facilitate this wonderful healing process that is going to open the world to your child, that's going to build his confidence. So what this means for you is that you're going to need help. You're going to need listening help so that you don't bottom out as your child's listener. It is really emotionally taxing to listen to children's great big feelings. We need a chance almost every time our children have a big cry to be able to talk to somebody and feel with somebody about what that kicked up for us. You're going to need help having people be with your child so that you can get away from the work of parenting on a regular basis so that you're not worn down by it. The second thing that we advise is that you let go of unnecessary expectations. Really, when a child is doing lots of emotional work, there's a lot more work for you to do internally and externally. So what you want to do is you want to let go of folding the clothes. You want to let go of cleaning the house. You want to let go of presenting 3 food groups at every meal. You want to let go of hot meals. When times were difficult in my family, when I was raising my boys, our dinners would be, some carrot sticks, cottage cheese with ketchup on it, and a little bit of mayonnaise. I called that 3 food groups. It wasn't heated. There it was. They ate it. They lived. We laugh about it now. But it was much better for me not to try to cook a meal when I couldn't even think about cooking, and when it would wear me out even more. Much better for me to sit down at the table with my boys with their little bowls of cottage cheese and ketchup and actually be able to enjoy them than rush around trying to make the meal that would show up in Family Circle magazine as a good meal. We have many tales of various parenting by connection parents I know, who really let go of almost everything that the typical parent feels like they have to do. One of the mother that I know let go of cleaning her house for 2 whole years. She was in a very difficult position. I don't want to tell the whole story, but she was in a very, very difficult position. Her teenagers felt very antagonistic towards her for all kinds of difficult reasons. And in order to connect with them, she just decided she was not going to ask for them to help clean the house, and she was not going to martyr herself cleaning the house because it made her furious at them because they couldn't help. The family just would explode around cleaning. So she made a vow that she would keep her bedroom the way she wanted it to be, and her 3 teenagers and she would live in the rest of the house. Sometimes dishes were not done for 3 whole days. I was there many times. We were listening partners, and I just thought she was the bomb. She was great for making this decision to connect with her children and to not do things that would make everybody upset and hate one another again. And it took her 2 years, but by the time 2 years was up, she had rebuilt her relationships with her kids. Her house was like the favorite house in the neighborhood for the teenagers to come over to. They would all sit around and laugh and tell jokes with one another. And eventually they could help her clean the house, but not because they were forced to, because they wanted to, because they felt close enough to her to really want to make it a home that they all could feel pleased with. So you can let go of just about anything if you have to. And we encourage you to let go of a lot of things. Get in a bunch of paper plates so you don't have to wash the dishes. If your child is needing lots of emotional support, your life is going to be better if you give it, and if you let go of all these other things. Have someone else take care of your dog for a month, so you don't have to do that part. Just anything you can let go of, do. Play listening and stay listening are very important tools to use if your child is crying a lot. Your child needs the counterweight of times when things are just the way she wants them, just the way he likes them, and when they have you one-on-one, when they're in charge. You know, these other stay listening times are times when you're proposing things that are hard for them. They need the counterweight of them being in charge of the relationship, of there being laughter, of there being play, of it being exactly the way that they enjoy it. So keep moving on those tools and make sure that you get some special time for yourself. It's like we parents really try to do everything possible for our children, and we wear ourselves down doing that. We lose a sense of what we like to do, a sense of having control over any part of our lives, because we don't really have very much time when we're not trying to think about someone else and what they need. So getting a little bit of breathing time away from your family every now and then is really, really important. Very, very helpful. So see what you can do to schedule that in. You won't find progress in the middle of your child's crying, sobbing, kicking, screaming, writhing sessions. You know, those are an expression of the deepest part of the hurt that's stuck inside them. Every time that hurt gets triggered, your child will benefit from going there. And as long as your child has any part of that hurt stuck inside them, that's exactly the way it's going to feel. So it may be that your child is still going to be having these, you know, I feel like I'm going to die, I feel like I'm going to die feelings when their big worries about separation get triggered, you know, when they're 8 years old and trying to go away to sleepaway camp, as they had when they were 2 years old and just worried about you moving 2 feet away from them. But in the meantime, where you can look for progress is sometimes children make developmental leaps like Catherine did, coming up with 23 words over the weekend after she had done a huge amount of crying on Friday. You can look for your child gazing at you more fully and more relaxedly, your child beginning to laugh when they didn't laugh much before, your child telling you things that they never could tell you before, your child looking at people when they absolutely couldn't look at a stranger before, your child walking up to people where they never walked up to people before, even if it's only for a minute and then they run back to you. It's like you want to watch after a good cry to see what is different, you know, and it may be subtle and it may be right out there in the middle of everything. I know I listened to a boy who was stuck in an orphanage where no one connected with him for the whole first year of his life. He was kept alive, but there was no regular person who was his care person. He was adopted by a mother in the United States, brought here, and he was absolutely terrified. For the whole first 2 years of his life, as soon as he was here, between the ages of 1 and 3, they couldn't have anybody come to the house. As soon as someone came to the house, he would scream at the top of his lungs and hang on tight to whichever parent was there and scream and scream and scream until the intruder went away. He was terrified around other children. When he went to preschool, he spent 3.5 months sitting on his mother's lap, clutching her shirt, just just clutching her hard, looking out a little bit, but he wouldn't, in 3.5 months, even sit next to her. He was absolutely terrified. We started working with him, and the fears started coming off, first in laughter. We started first with laughter, just getting little games going where he could laugh about, you know, it was really silly stuff. I'm not going to describe it all here. But at one point, he began to trust us. He began to trust me, in particular, to hold him while his mom moved like 3 feet away, still paying attention, and he would cry and cry and cry. We did a few of those big cries about just a tiny bit of separation where she was still paying 100% attention. And one day she decided to move about 10 feet away and let me listen to him cry while she stayed in the same room within eye contact of him. And he cried for about 8 minutes, really, really hard. I need my mom, I need my mom, I need my mom. And then after 8 minutes, he all of a sudden stopped crying and he looked at me right in the eye and he said, "When I was in the orphanage, I cried and I cried and I cried and you didn't come." And I just said, "Oh, you're right, I didn't come. I didn't know you then. I'm so sorry I didn't come." That was a sign all of a sudden that he actually knew what he was working on, that he had a memory of what he was working on, he had a feeling about it, and he felt close enough to me to have wished that I could have been there. It was such a remarkable moment. So your child may tell you things like that, that show that they're aware of the fact that they're working on things. You know, the little comment that the grandchild made to her grandma after a huge cry about not wanting to go to preschool. "You know, Grammy, I love school. I just don't like to leave home." You know, you may get some little moment of clarity there. Those are exceptional. You might not get that right away, but what you will get is more smiles, better sleep at night, sort of more openness to other people for little bits of time. And as your child cries and cries, these little open spaces where they are more confident, where they are more open to see what's going on without that veil of fear in front of their eyes, you will see these increase. And over time, your child will cry fewer and fewer times during the day or during the week. Their cries will be just as intense. You'll get the intensity, you'll get the deep feelings, you'll get the sense that your child is out of his or her mind with feeling, which they are in a sense. It's your mind that's keeping them oriented while they let go of their ability to think and just feel this through. You are anchoring them, and as they do that deeply, you know, their life will get bigger and bigger, but it won't get bigger during those crying times. It will get bigger in the times between the cries. And then every once in a while, a big restimulation will come, like going off to preschool, or going off to first grade, or daddy taking a trip, or you taking a trip. And all of a sudden, the feelings will be very tender again for a while. They have to go back down and tap that big root of fear in there until they get their bearings again. But all of this will be healing work, and your child will be deeply self-aware because of it. You will find yourself so pleased with your ability to heal your child from hurt. And you will be very, very close. You know, the closeness will be something that will be of a quality that you have not experienced in your life before, is my guess, unless you've had an unusual life. So that's where to look for progress. The in-between times, the times when your child is not crying, not afraid, not restimulated, and working on early feelings, the times in between is where you'll see the progress.